Okay, here we are ready to continue our work as we wrap up the first quadrant in the War with Grandpa. I know some of you have been eagerly waiting to continue this, so here we go. Today we're going to work on what good readers do as we end the first quadrant. Good readers orally retell, sort of go over the important events, and then orally, so verbally, are able to tell what happened when they have reached the end of the first quadrant. We do this to monitor comprehension, to make sure we understand and we have been thinking about the story. So when we retell, we share the most important events and the details from the story. Okay, we have been doing this. Okay, the most important events list we have been creating. And so we're going to be working with this list again. So if you need to pause this and get your materials, make sure you have your important events list and something to write with. Okay, I hope you have what you need. So I'm going to orally practice something with you, and then you're going to get busy writing a little bit in your writer's notebook. So we're going to think about what happened first, next, and last in the story. And then we're going to use those as transition words. But the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to read again, and you can follow along. You have them written down, okay? So the important events list, we can reread. Hope you guys are looking at your list too, that Peter's grandma dies. Number 2, Grandpa Jack feels sad and lonely. And number 3, Grandpa Jack decides to sell his house and move in with Peter's family. Now we should all have those written down either in your notebook or some of you used a piece of paper, okay? And so as we prepare to do, keeping in mind our goal today is, which we talked about this in small group a little bit too, the Retell summary of quadrant 1, where we sequence events and we apply and use our new vocabulary. We'll see if we can't do some of these things today, meet those goals. Okay. So we have just read together the first 3 events in the story. And so what we're going to do is get your pencil ready, get your important events list out. At the top of the page, I'm going to show you, we are going to write first. And we're going to use that as we think about a retell summary. You just put the word first. Okay, so pause if you need a minute to write it down. I put it in pink so you could see it. Okay. All right. Now we're going on to next. So I'm going to use the word next above the middle of the story. So listen carefully and then we'll go back and add next. Next, Peter has to move out of his room and move into the guest room. The first night Peter sleeps in his new room, he feels angry and scared. Grandpa Jack is always tired and mopes around. Oh, wait, I think, we're always checking our comprehension, okay? I think it sounds to me like we have to, the number 4 and number 5 are about the middle. So that's where we're going to put next, is above number 4. Okay, so again, pause if you need a second to write the word next above number 4 in your notebook. Then it makes more sense that at the end of the quadrant, that is where it switches to talking about Grandpa. And as we think about text and check our comprehension, that makes more sense, okay? Okay, so number 6, if we were to put last above number 6, Grandpa Jack is always tired and mopes around, and Peter's parents are very worried about Grandpa Jack. And that's where we also inserted comma, because Grandpa Jack is depressed. We wanted to use our good vocabulary. So the thing we need to get caught up on together, now that we've checked our thinking and practiced, is last. So these are the transition words. I know you all use these in 2nd grade as well. And I think it's really important if you pause right now, give yourself a minute to insert those words and practice reading it to yourself. And then we will go on. Okay. Make sure you add the last statement too, because we wanted to practice using our vocabulary because Grandpa is depressed. We decided that as a team. Okay. So pause if you need to get caught up, and then practice reading it. Read it at least once to yourself to get the sequence in your head. Okay, you're back. Great. You've done your reading. So now we also need to introduce the quadrant or the summary of the first quadrant. Okay, and so to do that, we have to add an introduction. So we've sequenced the main events, but now it makes sense. We always want to go back and we want to make sure we have an introduction that makes sense and a conclusion to our summary. And we talked about this in small groups. So if you were at small groups, we have a little bit of this started together. We're weaving it in right now. So I'm going to read it out loud to you, and then I'll hold it up so that you can record it on another page. You're going to have to put it on another page, and then you will be rewriting the important events list as you turn it into your Retell summary. Okay, so I will read the first quadrant introduction. The first quadrant of the book, The War with Grandpa by Robert Kimmel Smith, tells us about a boy who has to give up his bedroom in order to make his grandpa Jack comfortable. Okay. And that is what we would put at the top. Now, if you wanted to take it, write it on a smaller piece of paper. And since this is used for oral practice and it isn't our formal writing, it would go up here. Okay? That paragraph could go up here. All right, or you can write it on another piece of paper and insert it. Remember, when you're doing this, you have to work with what you have. Everybody's is going to look a little different, and that's okay. All right, so again, this is a chance to pause and do some writing on a piece of paper or on the lines in the back of your notebook. You're going to record the part that I have here highlighted or accented with the yellow bracket. It's this page. Sorry, guys. Kind of tricky. All right. So pause the video so you have a chance to write this down. The first quadrant of the book, The War with Grandpa. Okay. Hopefully you had a chance to write that down, and now you're back. As I talk you through the end of this, we always want something that's a transition to what's coming up. So the thing we're going to talk about is doing a prediction. And that prediction statement looks like this. Right? Let's get this up. I predict blank because blank. Okay? So we will also talk about this in our small group. That will be our discussion on Monday and Tuesday. Okay? Where we make a prediction. All right. Now, we will talk about that in our groups. If we think about it together now, and based on our conversation last week, okay, we were making some predictions together about how Peter is feeling desperate. And if we go back into the book, remember, we talked about the fact that he didn't like his room, the fact that he really, really didn't want Grandpa to have his room, and that he was actually scared in his new room. So he kept saying, he's thinking about this war, okay? And he's very sure that there is something he needs to do to get his room back, okay? So one way to conclude to fill in the blanks at the end of our summary would be to say, I predict Peter will do anything to get his room back. I think he will go to war. And remember, we were talking about what that meant. What does war mean in the house? We'll have to find out, okay? And we're making this prediction. We always want to cite what we're basing the prediction on. And we actually are making that prediction based on the title of the book, The War with Grandpa. Okay, so when we say, I predict Peter will do anything to get his room back, I believe Peter will go to war with Grandpa. Here's our text evidence right here in the title. So we know something's coming. All right. So that first quadrant, oral summary, we are going to practice turning that into a full written summary together in our small group. And this is just to get you started. Okay. So again, to get you started, you're going to add your sequence words. Okay. And then you're also somewhere for reference, you are to write down the first quadrant of the book statement right here, this yellow part. You need to have that written down as well. We will do the rest together in small group Monday and Tuesday. So we get this done before you have your long weekend for Thanksgiving. All right. Good job. Work hard. See you Monday.